Everybody. Happy July 5th. RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Hope you guys had a great 4th of July weekend. Back to the grind we go. It is about 4:30 or 4 o'clock. I'm sorry. I don't know what time it is. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to catch up and join in here. We're going to be talking about some RDAP stuff. For those of you that are trying to get into RDAP, you have it in your pre-sentence report, and there might be some issues getting into the BOP with level 3 operations. We'll talk about what all that means here in a few minutes. If this is your first time joining us, make sure you go ahead and turn on your notifications, hit subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. If you're not sure where you should be starting in the process and you're brand new and you'd like to book yourself a consultation, in the description of the video, there's a link where you can book a free consultation right from our website. It'll allow you to pick a calendar, best time that's suited for you, and we'll hop on a quick call and we'll kind of discuss your situation and see what we might be able to do for you. So yeah, go ahead and hop over and do that. If this is your first time, kind of let me know where you're from. We got Shelly Morford's watching. Hey, Shelly. We got Juan. Juan's watching. What's going on, Juan? Juan's one of our first-time clients. Dan's the man. Appreciate that, Juan. Juan always has the nicest things to say. Juan, we got to get you down here. Stephanie Twyman, another one of our clients. Juan, we got to get you down here. We got a new studio over here. Got a 1,000 square foot studio that we can't wait to use. But yeah, so today, what's going on? We're talking about RDAP, and lately we've helped a lot of individuals position themselves so they can qualify for not just getting into RDAP, but also qualify for the sentence reduction. And then we get some other wrenches thrown in that it's impossible to foresee every problem. Some of the problems that we're running into is because of COVID and all of these issues going on through the BOP, they have different levels of operations. Level 1 being where you want to be, and level 3 operations where you don't want to be, where there's a lot of programs that are shut down. Things aren't moving the way they should. Some of you may have already been in RDAP in the classes. You're in phase 1, phase 2. And then you go to a level 3 operation issue where you've got all kinds of social distancing. You can't fit enough people in the classroom. The classes completely get paused. And how is this going to affect many of you? Some of the places that we've discussed these operations, it's a temporary issue for everybody, or it could be a very permanent issue for some of you. And why do I mean that? Depending on the length of your sentence. If you have a ton of time left on your sentence, you could stop and start RDAP a million times and still have time to finish the program and have time to go into the halfway house and finish portion of the program that takes place in the halfway house. So those of you that have been watching the videos and have shared content with us and have followed our content, you know that you need roughly 24 months when entering into RDAP. That's the minimum requirement in order to be able to qualify for any sentence reduction. The reason being is, let's say you're sentenced to 24 months. When you're sentenced to 24 months, you minus your good time, which is roughly about 4 months. That leaves you with like 20.4 months. That's pretty much exactly what you need when you enter into RDAP, because the RDAP program itself takes about 10 months to complete. When you finish completing the program, you're not finished. You're just because you graduated RDAP in the BOP doesn't mean you're done and there's no hurdles left. You still have to be able to have you have to have 4 months remaining on your sentence after completing RDAP in order to go to the halfway house for 4 months. You have to be able to do 4 months of TDAP. TDAP takes place in the halfway house, and it's part of graduating RDAP. So when you finish the inpatient portion of RDAP, the residential portion, which is done in the BOP, when you finish that, then you have to do the transitional part, which is done in the halfway house. When you finish RDAP, if you don't have at least 4 months left, because 4 months is what's required to do in the halfway house to complete RDAP. So if you finish RDAP and you've only got 2 or 3 months left, you're not going to get the time off. It's just simple as that. Now, the problem is some of you are getting into RDAP with enough time remaining, but then you get these level 3 operations where the BOP, certain BOP designations go on level 3, which if you go over to the BOP's website, you can, if you know where you're going, if you have a loved one there, you can go to the BOP, bop.gov. You can look up the different prisons, and it will tell you on each prison what level they're on. So it's going to look something similar to this. This gives you a breakdown, and if I also put a link to this in the description of the video. So if you want to kind of check this out and do a deeper dive on this to see how this might pertain to you, but it really is causing some problems. And we've had a couple clients get to prison with plenty of time left on their sentence, but they were told that they didn't qualify for RDAP or they didn't qualify for the sentence reduction. And, of course, we're getting messages back. Hey, RDAP Dan, what's going on? I thought you said, we were taken care of and this is all good. First off, we don't have the final say of who qualifies and who's disqualified for RDAP. We do have a very, very good gauge for what you need to do in order to qualify. You need to have some substance abuse issues, whether it's drinking, whether it's prescription pills, marijuana, cocaine, whatever it is, you need to have this verified or articulated. Best place to have it articulated is during the pre-sentence interview when you discuss your past substance abuse use with the probation officer. You want to disclose what problems you had, how often you drank. Now, some of you didn't mention this to U.S. probation for various reasons. Maybe you didn't have a substance abuse problem, so of course you would not have mentioned it. Some of you, though, did not mention this during the pre-sentence interview for the simple fact that maybe you were embarrassed, you were ashamed, you thought it could get you in more trouble. Your attorney told you don't bring it up, and we get that quite a bit where attorney tells the defendant not to bring it up for whatever reasons. I don't know if they think it's going to hurt them or whatnot. But if you don't bring it up, it makes it real hard to qualify for the program, because if you don't bring it up during the pre-sentence interview, the only thing you can really do to increase your chances from that point is to have a substance abuse evaluation done from a third-party chemical dependency professional, which we can facilitate for you, but there's no guarantee that that's going to get you an RDAP. The RDAP coordinator could review it and say, this evaluation was done after your indictment, and we're going to throw this away and not use it. You can challenge that, of course. You can go through your BOP remedies, but usually we see when something is denied like that, it's usually denied. However, we have got quite a few of our clients that did not have it mentioned during the pre-sentence interview were able to take advantage of this method and get access to the program and get access to the sentence reduction portion. So, it could definitely increase your odds, but it's not a guarantee. So we don't want to talk about guarantees. Now, the issue that we're getting right now is we had a client, she was sentenced, I think it was 29 months. She had no time served. So 28-month sentence minus her good time. After about a month there, I got a call from her family member saying she was denied for RDAP, and we couldn't figure out why. She had everything she needed in her pre-sentence report. She verified her substance abuse. She was well documented. Come to find out that they have temporarily discontinued the program where she's at. And I can't remember where she's at, guys, or else I'd be mentioning that in the video right now. But they temporarily discontinued the program, and their initiative to restart it isn't going to be for several months. And they assume it's going to be after the point of no return, where she would need at least 20.4 months remaining on her sentence, which she will not have according to what their start date is going to be. So that kicks her out of the qualifying factors. Now, many of you may be saying, well, that's not fair. It's not my fault. I agree. I wish it were that simple. However, this could open the possibility to get some additional halfway house time or some additional home confinement on the back end through motions to the judge, asking the judge to make a recommendation. Obviously, it's still going to be up to the BOP. But if you're doing everything that you should be doing, and you're living an exemplary life in the BOP, you're programming, you're going above and beyond, you're staying out of trouble, obviously, and you're not doing just the bare minimum to get by, having something like a motion to your judge prepared, asking the judge to reach back out to the BOP on your behalf to make a recommendation for additional halfway house time is something that might make more sense. Or going out to your congressional representative, asking for recommendations on a family member's behalf as to why you might need additional halfway house time. These are services that we do help with. You can check that out. You can book a free consultation. We can discuss that. But it's important right now to know that if some of you are out there getting ready to get sentenced and you're looking at, like, let's say a 24-month sentence, which 24 months minus your good time leaves you with 20.4 months. That's exactly what you would need to enter into the BOP. So there's two parts to that question. Let's assume that your prison is not on a level 3 security issue right now, that it's just running regular. It's on a level 1. Everything's going great. And you're like, great, I got 24 months. I'm good to go. Well, it's also important to find out when the next program starts, because if you get to your designated location And let's say RDAP started yesterday and you get there today, and the next class isn't going to start for 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it is. Again, now you're missing that window. Just because you were sentenced to 24 months doesn't mean you automatically qualify based on your time remaining. It's how much time you have left on your sentence when you enter into the program. So if you go to enter into the program and you were sentenced to 24 months, but it takes 2 months to get in the program for whatever reason, again, that's going to disqualify you probably from the sentence reduction and you won't qualify for any time off. These are problems that can really hinder somebody. And, COVID has just created hurdle after hurdle, and has created a lot of benefit as well, because a lot of you that have been applying for compassionate release, there's been many individuals who are qualifying for compassionate release who wouldn't have qualified before. COVID has wreaked havoc throughout the prison system. It's also wreaked havoc in the free world. Family members getting sick, family members that are much more likely to be subject to not an easy recover from COVID. A lot of the compassionate releases that we've been working on, we've got a few that we're working on for family members. It's not based on their health issues, the one going into prison. It's based on the family's health issues. If you're a primary caretaker, we'll use an example. Let's say you're getting ready to go into the prison system, and your wife just had a baby, or she had twins, or you've got little kids at home, and maybe there's issues with these kids, or your wife has severe medical issues where she drastically needs help caring for the children. And many of you are going to still be kind of SOL on that, because you probably have family, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents that are living close enough that can kind of pick up the slack. But for those of you that don't have that, let's say that, you getting ready to go to prison are the only primary caretaker for your spouse and your immediate family, and there's nobody else that can assist. And don't just think you're going to write a letter saying, nobody else can help. Trust me, they're going to do their homework. So if you've got family living in the area, there's going to need to be some declarations that are gathered from the family as to why they can't pick up the slack. But if a strong case can be made to as why you are the primary caretaker, and it's going to create severe health issues for the person being left behind, that is a great opportunity to try to take advantage of compassionate release. Many of you, in order to do this, will have to exhaust your BOP remedies first, which means technically you don't have to go into the prison system to do this, but it's much easier if you start your prison sentence. And when I say exhaust your BOP remedies, you need to request your compassionate release through the BOP before you can go back to your judge. We know that almost in every situation, the BOP is either going to deny your request for compassionate release, or it's going to go unanswered. Well, if either one of those two things happen, one, if it's denied, or two, if they don't answer within 30 days, then you can take your compassionate release and you can motion to the court to request the court consider you for compassionate release. This is something that the First Step Act dealt with. Prior to the First Step Act, if you wanted to request a compassionate release, you had to do it at the BOP level, and you were stuck at the BOP level. If the BOP denied it, again, you're SOL, you couldn't do anything about that. Due to the First Step Act, they stepped in because so many people were not only being denied, they were going unheard, and the amount of denials was just staggering. You basically had to be on your deathbed near release date. And even in many cases, there was still denials for really no apparent reason, just kind of like blanket denials. So when they stepped in, when the First Step Act became available, part of one of the things that it dealt with and addressed was compassionate release. They're still going to give the BOP the benefit of the doubt. You're still going to have to exhaust that remedy at the BOP level. But now, after 30 days, you can bring that motion to the court. And we've helped numerous individuals preparing these motions that either they filed themselves or they had their attorneys file to remedy the situation and come home. Now, this isn't for everybody. You can't just think, I need to come home because of COVID. There has to be some medical concerns, some severe issues. And we have a couple of clients right now that fit the bill really well. We have to wait and see how this plays out. But compassionate release for many of you is a viable option that did not used to be on the table. So again, in the description of the video, if it's something you're interested in, click on the link in the description, book a free consultation, find out if it's something that you or your family might benefit from. And if you can't benefit from it, at least you'll know you spoke to somebody that's dealing with this, that can assist and answer your questions. But RDAP is really under fire right now for, there's individuals that were in we just had a guy that was in the final phase, and I'm trying to think of what camp he was at. They shut down RDAP altogether. He had like weeks to go to graduation. They shut down RDAP and they're transferring him out to another camp, but he's not going to have enough time to even finish the program by the time he gets to where he's going to get the sentence reduction. So this is where, making sure you get your earned time credits, your FSA credits for the programming credits. Many of you know that for every 30 days of programming, you should be qualifying for every 30 days of programming, you can qualify for up to 15 days of earned time credits through the First Step Act. And some of you haven't seen your credits update. You might need some assistance with getting those updated. On a good note, and I'm going to have a video with Tom Root hopefully next week on this topic, talking about earned time credits, the ETA credits through the First Step Act. We're seeing many individuals being given 50% of their ETA credits for not even taking programs. The BOP is just so far behind in updating that I think they're just starting to kind of blanket give credits, even if you didn't earn the credits or take any of the programs. And we've seen that in quite a few locations so far. So that's something that could highly benefit many of you that are kind of getting beat up on RDAP. For those of you that are able to take RDAP, FSA credits, the First Step Act, you're able to get your sentence reduction for doing RDAP, and you can also get your earned time credits for doing RDAP as well. So you can kind of double dip on time off through RDAP. Now, if you don't qualify for RDAP for whatever reason, you can still take the non-residential. You won't get any sentence reduction for RDAP on that, but you can get some time off on the earned time credits for 30 days of programming, however long you're in that program. If you have ETA or earned time credit questions, First Step Act questions, compassionate release questions, RDAP questions, issues with your personal narrative, character reference letter, prepping for the pre-sentence interview, these are all things that we deal with here at Federal Prison Time Consulting. You can either go to our website. Again, you can book a free consultation. The worst mistake that many individuals make, and those of you that are clients that are watching right now can attest to this, that you kind of think you have it all figured out. And like many of us, you find out when it's too late, or you find out what you should have done, or you thought you were going to get probation. I've had a couple of clients that have reached out and hired us late in the hour. And it's because they were in this thought process that they were just going to get probation. The judge was going to see what a good person they were, and they didn't deserve to go to prison. And most of you probably are good individuals that probably don't deserve to go to prison. That doesn't change the fact that most of you will go to prison, and the government's argument is going to be most of you do deserve to go to prison. Very few people are actually prepared for the pre-sentence interview. I'm not going to say attorneys don't prepare their clients, but what do you consider being prepared? I don't consider being prepared for the pre-sentence interview, finding out about your pre-sentence interview, a few days or a week before, and being told to get a few things thrown together. This is a big step in the process, and walking into that pre-sentence interview locked and loaded and having a very good mind frame of what's going to happen next and why certain factors are important during the pre-sentence interview. Prepping your attorney for what you plan to do during the day of the pre-sentence interview can also play a big role in the outcome of this. Problem is, a lot of you that work with us, we want to do the personal narratives and prep you for the personal narrative and have you submit your personal narrative at the time of the pre-sentence interview. And then you guys tell your attorney that you're going to do this at the last second. Your attorney's like, no, we don't need to do that. We'll save that for sentencing. And there could be a couple of reasons why. One, you sprung it on them and it's outside of their normal way of doing things. So they don't want to, shake the waters, because riding the side of caution is kind of what they do. The other thing is maybe they haven't really took a deep dive into reading your narrative, and they're afraid maybe there's something in there that's going to conflict with what you pled guilty to. Remember, if you're doing your pre-sentence interview, for most of you, you've probably pled guilty. And if you're going to go into your pre-sentence interview and you're going to bring your personal narrative and submit it, but you didn't really take full accountability in your personal narrative, or maybe you're blaming others or doing the opposite of taking responsibility in your personal narrative, it could create some confusion for the probation officer, and his report could reflect a poor recommendation back to the courts. The benefit to using a service like ours, prepping you for the pre-sentence interview, especially when it comes to the personal narrative, is our whole focus on the personal narrative is high levels of accountability, illustrating who your victims are, and your victim could be friends, family, children, mothers, brothers, whoever you defrauded. In addition to that, making sure the attorney is brought up to speed on why we want to submit the personal narrative. When you go in and have this interview with US probation, that's who's going to be conducting your pre-sentence interview. Most of these interviews last anywhere from, on a fast interview, 30 minutes to an hour to an hour and a half. That's usually the range that we see. You're going to be asked a series of questions based on your substance abuse, your mental health, your finances, and all of these questions you're going to give answers to. Short answers. It's going to be kind of like it's like speed dating. The government's asking you, or the federal probation's asking you questions at a pretty decent pace. You're going to be answering them at a pretty decent pace. Then they're going to compile all these short answers that you gave, and they're going to compile and create your life history based on that 35-minute to an hour conversation. I don't know about you, but I don't want my entire life history to be summed up in 30 minutes, especially when the government is going to present a narrative on who they think you are, which is basically illustrating that you're El Chapo and you should be put to death. If you read these narratives put out by the government, they're very, very one-sided, and that's where U.S. probation is going to get most of their information unless you come into this thing prepared. So having a well-organized narrative isn't going to be excusing the things that you did, but it is going to be explaining who you are, why you're taking this plea deal, how you're demonstrating responsibility above and beyond just acceptance of responsibility to get a downward departure. We want to go far above and beyond just a downward departure. We want to give the judge reasons to go below the sentence, to depart below the sentencing guidelines. In most of your cases, the best case scenario for recommendation wise from the government, the best that we normally see, and there are some, one-off occasions, but normally the government recommends low end of the guidelines. And at best you can expect the government to recommend low end of the guidelines and to not object to any downward departure requests from your attorney. So if you already know the government is going to recommend the low end of the guidelines, and the government is not going to object to a departure request, why wouldn't you do your best to present everything to this judge as to why they should consider a downward departure, whether it be just a highly reduced sentence, combination of probation and home confinement? And the problem is many of you think the reasons are, what a good person you are, or all the community service that you've been out doing, or the fact that you've stayed out of trouble. Many of you go back into contrast and you talk about, so-and-so, when everybody is sick, he's the first one that shows up to help them. When somebody needs something, Mike's the first person to lend a helping hand. The judge is expecting you to come out of the woodwork with all of your good deeds and your merits and your Boy Scout badge and, your puppy training and you're saving cats from trees and helping old ladies across the street. That's pretty much exactly what everybody in your situation does. Hate to be the one to burst your bubble, but if you're a nonviolent if you're a first-time nonviolent individual, whether you're white collar, blue collar, you're probably running the scenarios through your mind that the judge is going to see you're a good person and how you don't deserve prison time and you didn't murder anybody and you didn't rape anybody. The judge is going to see those facts. Your friends and family are telling you they're not going to send somebody like you to prison. Well, pop the bubble. That's bullshit. Most of you, there's nothing special about your situation. You're not special. You're not going to get a gold star for doing the right thing. The thing that's going to separate you is you have to realize that most people that in similar situations to you, white collar individuals or first time nonviolent offenders, blue collar, doesn't matter. Most people that are going through this for the first time all have that same train of thought. They all write the same sobby email or the same sobby personal narrative, and they all have the same character reference letters painting what a good person you are. I'll tell you, and I'm sharing this with you guys from my perspective of some things that I did going through this process. And I felt like, oh man, I'm so smart. I'm the only one doing these things. I even went as far as to try to get my attorney to sympathize and have additional empathy for what I was going through. Because I thought if my attorney is more involved in caring about my outcome, not to say that my attorney wasn't involved or didn't care, but just from what I wanted, what I thought I needed to see and feel. And tell me if any of you have done this or thought about doing this. I remember when I was going through this is well before sentencing. It might've been right after I took my plea deal. And I'm feeling like, man, if my attorney only knew what a good person I was, he would be on that stand fighting for me. So I sent a text. I was acting like I was going to send a text to somebody else. And it was a picture of like me and my kids with the dogs looking like the universal family man. And I sent it to my attorney, and then I followed up with a text message. Oops, sorry, wrong text. How many of you can relate to that? Raise your hand, right? Because we want drastically so bad for them to relate to us and feel what we're going through. The thing is I have clients that do that to me right now. They send me pictures of their family, and it's beautiful pictures. I'm not taking anything away from that, but I feel your pain of where you're going through. The problem is the attorneys, it's not, it's that you're wasting your time doing those things. I'm not going to say it's a waste of time because it makes you feel like your family pictures aren't worth anything. But I can tell you that most of our clients, most nonviolent first time offenders, white collar or not, all are good people, all are good family men and women for the most part. Sure, some of you might be a scumbag. I was a scumbag. I'm not going to lie. I went through some very hard times that I created for myself, and prison. I used my getting in trouble. I blamed a lot of my getting in trouble on my past, things like that. Yeah, I didn't want to take the responsibility properly. It took a long time to come full circle on this and really see it for what it is. The benefit that you guys have is whether you hire me or don't hire me, hopefully you're watching the video right now and you're like, holy shit, I think Dan's talking to me. I probably am talking to you if you're thinking that. And if you think you should be in danger or you feel like you're in danger, you probably are. It's because you don't know what to do. You're kind of stuck. You're stuck in this spot, and helping somebody become unstuck is easier said than done, right? Because it requires changing your thinking, taking a deep look at yourself, and realizing that you are not the victim in this situation. You are the opposite of the victim. You are the culprit. Even if you were duped and you believe somebody and somebody snitched on you, you're still the culprit. You still put yourself in a situation to get snitched on. So I'm not knocking you for that. I'm just saying, if you really want the outcome that you desire, you've got to take a different approach and look at this as it's not going to come from sympathy and empathy. No one's going to feel bad for you at sentencing. You're going to get up there and cry at sentencing. We've had clients in their personal narrative, they want to include pictures of their family on holiday vacations. These are unnecessary things. These are things that, in my belief, can backfire because it opens up the opportunity for the judge to say things like, you weren't thinking about this when you were committing your crime. Now, I know for many of you, when I say that, committing your crime, you're like, it's not the way the government said. I get that. But most of you signed a plea deal is specifically stating what the government said. So your plea deal says, yes, you did that and you agreed to that plea deal. So in order to create the best possible outcome, it's going to require you to swallow that plea deal if you signed it. I'm not saying sign a plea deal if you're not guilty, but I'm saying for some people that are not guilty, still sign a plea deal because they weigh the options out in their mind. And when you start to look at that reality of time you could be facing versus time you could be facing with a plea deal, and that's what my rude awakening was for me. I didn't want to take a plea deal. Not that I wasn't guilty. I didn't want to take a plea deal because I didn't want to go to prison. As simple as that. There was no sentence that sounded good to me unless it was probation. When they told me, oh, you signed this plea deal, you're looking at a cap of 60 months. 60 months of prison was the worst case scenario. That was still a really bad worst case scenario in my mind. And my attorney was like, well, that's the worst case. You're probably not looking at that much. You're probably looking at half that or, 40 months. I was still like, that's still too long. 1 week is too long. Let's fight this thing. We think fighting the government or fighting or holding out. I get the question all the time. If I don't take this plea deal, how many plea deals are they going to come back to me with? That's first a very, very dangerous question because there's no right or wrong answer to that. They could come back with a better plea deal. They could come back with the same plea deal. They could not come back with a plea deal at all and say, all right, Joe, you want to roll the dice? We're going to trial. The government is not scared to go to trial. Most cases, they'll mop the floor with you in trial. Just for the simple fact that they can outspend you for sure. They can definitely outweight you. Some of you, the waiting game is by far the worst. Tell me if I'm lying on that. Can I get an amen? The waiting game is the worst. You got indicted 2 years ago and you're just now kind of getting to the point where you're like, fucking just put the plea in front of me. I'll close my eyes and sign it. I just want this to be over. That's part of the game that they might play. Or maybe it's not a game. Maybe they're just that backed up with cases, especially right now with everything going on from the January 6th insurrection. Half our caseload is comprised of January 6ers and PPP fraudsters, people that defrauded PPP or the SBA disaster relief loan. So we got a ton of those clients, and then we got a ton of clients that are dealing with January 6th, the people that stormed the Capitol. And I say that in quotations because sure, there were some people that stormed the Capitol, but then there were some people that were protesting outside with the sign and got a little into their feelings, and they're out there in the crowd pushing the sign hits somebody, and next thing you know, you're under federal indictments facing some prison time. And some of my clients are very young who are just going along with whatever they were believing. Whose fault is that? Sure, it is what it is, but needless to say, it's created a big opening of the floodgates for the government to indict out of Washington state, or I'm sorry, out of Washington, DC. So if you're going through something through the January 6th insurrection, or you're in trouble for PPP type stuff, if you're in trouble for PPP fraud, I'm going to tell you, you kind of want to move your case along. If you have the options of pleading and not dragging things on, once the PPP fraud becomes more kind of like right now, January 6th, all those trials and cases are kind of in the spotlight, and it doesn't look good when it's in the spotlight, because then when you have sentencings and plea deals and things like that, when you go in front of a judge, when it's in the spotlight, they tend to make more of an example out of you. Should it be like that? Of course not. Is it like that? Most of the time, yes. So the PPP fraud, disaster relief loans and things of that hasn't made it to mainstream media yet, where it's talking about all of the fraud. I know if you went through it personally, you're like, oh, it's all over the news for your local news, probably. But once that hits like mainstream, I would imagine harsher sentences may come with that, just because the theory is when you're in the public eye, they make examples of you because everyone's watching, and they don't want to be the one that's, you're going too soft on these white collar crimes. And again, there's what really happened. There's what you're saying happened. There's what the government's saying happened, even with the PPP. I know how easy it is to get the PPP loans, or how tempting it could be to add an extra employee or 10 extra employees. When I filed for mine, it was like, just check a box, submit it, and boom, you got your money. And the same thing for the forgiveness. You go in there, you fill out, check some boxes. They don't verify anything, but chances are they will come back and do their homework on this, or maybe do an audit. And that's what's happening to a lot of you guys. So, I'm not going to say, and if you did commit PPP fraud, or you think you might have, or your banker did the paperwork and you didn't know what they were doing, guys, I have so many clients that were like, I never signed a document. I never saw an application. Somebody did it in my name. Maybe not. I don't know. But I'm telling you that I'm seeing people get indicted every day for this. So if you put yourself in that situation, start preparing. And if you have the ability to pay the thing back, pay it back. And maybe that will make it go away. I don't know. But if you've already been hit and you're already under investigation, just because you give the money back doesn't make it go away. That's just going to make your restitution that much less. But yeah, right now are real hot temperature times through the BOP, through the court system. We got a lot of things happening in the government, a lot of changing of hands. These elections make a big difference in what's going on, at least what we think should be going on and what is going on sometimes are two different things. But RDAP and programs are being affected big time right now. So if you have a rather short sentence and you haven't gone into the BOP yet, maybe you just found out where you're designated. Some of the things you might want to do is ask for an extension. Ask for a self-surrender extension. We've helped many of our clients get extensions of 30, 60, 90, 120 days. Even some of our clients we've got extended out for 6 months. Yes, you're going to need some reasons for this. And if it's a treatment related reason, if you have a rather short sentence and RDAP is very treatment related, if going into the BOP right now, because of these different security levels, right now it's on a level 3 for many of the BOP locations. If you're in a situation where the prison you're going to isn't running programs because of COVID, and part of your situation is maybe you have a drug related or alcohol problem that you're hoping to get help with in the BOP, it may be a reason to ask for a self-surrender extension, showing that right now you're either in treatment, whether it be AA or inpatient programs that you could be taking advantage of, making it known to the court that by you going into the BOP right now, not only are you not going to be in the programs you're currently in, because those are street programs, but you won't be able to take advantage of the BOP related programs because of the temporary shutdowns of these programs, with no date in sight of when they're going to move on. So asking for a self-surrender extension, having it articulated the right way, a motion prepared. If your attorney is going to be lazy and he's going to tell you, no, the judge isn't going to give you that. The worst case scenario is the judge says no. It's not like you can get additional time or get in more trouble. It's going to be no is your worst case scenario, and you go in as you were supposed to. Best case scenario is you could get the additional time, which could make the difference of you getting the help you need in the BOP. So if you need help with that, if you need help preparing a motion for that, these are services that we can assist. We can help you prepare a motion that your attorney can file, or we can work with your attorney and engage with your attorney as to what, because maybe they just aren't familiar with the backside of the BOP. And that happens in many occasions. So there you have it, guys. I highly recommend, if you're going through this and you're not sure where to start, take advantage of our free consultation. There's a link in the description of the video. We've been very fortunate to help many of you. Some of you have hired us. Some of you just got the free information and the free resource from watching these videos, which is what the videos are intended for. So that's all I got for you guys today. Make sure you stay diligent. You do your homework. If you think you're getting into RDAP and you think it's a shoe-in and you have a rather short sentence, give us a call if you're not sure about your location. We can do some homework for you. It's a free consultation, guys. Well, I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting, people helping people, communities method, one day at a time. I'll be back next week with Tom Root. Y'all stay safe. Have a great day, I guess. Bye, guys.